It is your PrisonPlanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this live Sunday transmission. We are going to be here for the next 2 hours. The news websites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And we are going to be joined as well coming up in the second hour by investigative journalist Jon Rappoport, going over, well, the New York Times and hundreds of other newspapers out with the disgusting talking point that we need to just drug all children, that drugs, Ritalin, Prozac, you name it, actually makes their brains work better. So it's not just for ADHD kids, it's for everybody. In fact, the New York Times has written 5 articles I've seen the last 3 days or so. Drugs to improve learning, attention disorder or not, pills to help in school. With or without attention deficit, this helps them learn. They all need it. That's the new Freedom Initiative. See, instead of just saying half are mentally ill, look at this poor kid they've got on speed-type drugs, and they say, look how much it's helping him. And you look at the color photo, I mean, it looks like a zombie, poor child. The pills boost focus and impulse control in children. And that they all need it now. Here's another one. Risky rise of the good grade pill. That's actually a New York Times article critical of it, but they've got many, many others. It is a full court press coming out with the whole new Freedom Initiative. And so we're going to be breaking all of that down here today. In fact, guys, my clock fell off the wall, I'm noticing, and I guess I've gotten obsessive compulsive about things that I'm so used to be able to look at with the clock and the date and all that. It was on the floor and I couldn't read it, so I put it up there, and it's behind there. It's behind. Here, I'll show you. I'll just come over there. It must be behind that television. No, you can walk in front of it. No, it's fine. I've got to have it. I've just absolutely got to have it. You can walk in front of it. It's all right. Yeah, it must have fallen off the wall. And there it is, hiding back there. So when we go to break, we're going to come back and, well, we're going to get to that coming up in the second hour. Here, I love it so much, I can just, thank you. I can just have it right there. There you go. Mine. Now I feel good. I tell you, it's weird. I'm somebody who can get up and speak to 10,000 people, not even get upset or have butterflies anymore. I can go on national TV, be totally calm. And I've never really been an obsessive, compulsive type person, but so many thousands of times looking at the camera, talking into the microphone, and having the clock on the wall, I absolutely could not continue on. It's like the lucky rabbit's foot or something. I didn't realize that till I looked over there and it wasn't there. And I just knew it had fallen behind. You see there, and it was. I even knew it was resting over there behind that big giant television we use as a computer monitor so I can see the calls and stuff that are coming in. So it is October 14th, 2012, and it is 4:03 and 53 seconds. We will officially start the broadcast when we come back in the next segment, now that I have my teddy. Lovey, I need my clock. Thurston Howell III. What do you expect me to do? A radio show without my trusty clock? It's even got the weather on it if I hit the programming button. How else do we get reports from the mainland? Here on Gilligan's Island, huh? Thurston Howell III. Okay, we're going to come right back after this quick break. In fact, I think the new thing I'm going to do is just have it right here with me. While I broadcast, just right next to me. Just. All right, I'm going to get serious. Hey, race riots, are they coming? Thomas Sowell and many others say yes, and Twitter and Facebook are alive, flooded with threats. that America will burn if Barry Soetoro, a.k.a. Barack Obama, isn't elected our savior. And it looks bad because Romney's pulled ahead. Monday through Friday, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern, we're on the radio live, but that is enough for me. I come in Sunday with my trusty crew, and we come to you live 4 to 6 Central, 5 to 7 Eastern, 2 to 4 Pacific, 3 to 5 Mountain. And it is the 14th day of October 2012 on this live Sunday broadcast. And we're only, 3 weeks or so away now in the true final stretch of election 2012. And the whole world is watching because both men are globalists. Both men have stated they're anti-gun. Both men have stated they like corporate welfare and promise people all sorts of free goodies. But at least Mitt Romney has to say, as a supposed Republican, that he's pro-free market and that small businesses are good and that cutting taxes is good. Yeah, unless you want to wreck an economy to consolidate it. Everybody knows you raise taxes long-term, 100% of the time. If you raise taxes long-term too much, it will reduce tax revenue. So why do they raise taxes every year in California for the last 50 years straight? Because it's about only the big boys who write the laws being exempt from that. Same thing in France. You don't think everybody's paying 80-something% taxes, do you? No. Globalists have written the laws where they are exempt. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. That's what other mainline conservative talk show hosts won't tell you. Liberals say get rid of all money, all private property. Communism is wonderful. At their core, that's what they push. And that all corporations are bad. Right-wingers, they say all corporations are good and wonderful. And no, that's not true either. A lot of corporations are predatory and work with government. So we'll never change things when the terms are all scrambled. Well, this is going to be a very important broadcast today. Our top story I'm getting to in a moment has also been the top story the last day and a half at drudgereport.com, and it's now moved to the middle of drudgereport.com, the middle top story. I say that because it's already scrolled off the main page of Infowars.com, but I had the Sunday webmaster, Adon Salazar, repost it in the guest radio box, show guide area is a link to the report from the Economic Collapse blog and Michael Schneider that we syndicate at Infowars.com. And it covers, will the election results cause massive riots to erupt all over America? And I did a little research to add to the article at the bottom in a video I shot yesterday. And I found, professor, researcher, journalist Thomas Sowell over at Creator Syndicate writing, are race riots coming? We have a clip of him on the syndicated radio. We'll play in a little while, breaking all of that down. Going over the fact that he believes if Obama loses, that there will be racially motivated riots in this country. So we are going to be going over that here today. And guys, I know you printed me. Here it is. Just wanted to give credit to it. He was on KABC talk show covering that. That's the source of that that's coming up in the next segment. I'll play a few minutes of this. Thomas Sowell, race riots, will Obama loses. The Western Journalism Center found that clip from 3 days ago and posted that because, it's not just the article that we ran by Michael Schneider that's excellent, showing on Twitter and Facebook where people are saying, we're going to go out and riot and burn stuff, basically, if Obama doesn't win. I went out myself and searched it and found it all over. And when I shot a video about it yesterday with the headline, threats of riots if Obama loses flood the internet, there were a bunch of commenters there. And you go to their channels, they're real people saying, we're going to burn stuff, we're going to riot if Obama doesn't win. I'm not saying you should riot ever, but what about rioting over the NDAA, the government saying they'll secretly kill citizens whenever they want, or the NSA publicly spying on us illegally and not getting in trouble, or the government ordering the torture of children in front of their parents. That's in the Army's own report. Or why don't black folks riot over 52% of black babies never being born since Roe v. Wade and being aborted? I'm not saying you should riot, but I mean, I'm upset about it, and I'm not black. I think it's pretty darn horrible. But let me tell you, this is a real issue, because you've already got all sorts of racially motivated attacks increasing in this country because it's politically correct and cool to do black on white. That's all over local news here and there. Never really makes it to national news. But you've seen the cases that mainstream media can't block out, increasing at public events, at city events, at events in downtown areas all over the country. Racially motivated mobs of people attacking mainly, well, the white devils whenever they're out on the streets. And Thomas Sowell writes about that in his article at Creators Syndicate that's syndicated, going over examples of this. And how even members of newspapers and TV have been attacked. And the TV stations and newspapers say, we cannot report, that's politically incorrect. So you've got that component. You've got the depression that this country's really been in many sectors of the economy, in many areas. A recession for some, a depression for many others. John Williams of Shadow Stats and other economists, former head of the Treasury and policy, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts here has said it's a depression. All the economists we've had on, they've got fake economic numbers they put out, that's been exposed. You add the economic worldwide meltdown that's happening. You add the gangbanger culture that's got poor people in urban areas, predominantly black, killing each other at record numbers, even per square mile, more dangerous than Mexico. Most dangerous place in the world is now Chicago. The most dangerous country in the world is Mexico. Per capita, more dangerous than Syria. It's in the middle of a proxy war, staged civil war. We've got that coming up in the news. So you've got all of these ingredients percolating around, and the police in Detroit putting up signs saying, enter Detroit at your own risk. We cannot maintain law and order. Things are imploding. But you still got federal grants for your anti-gun program to go after law-abiding citizens with guns. Just like Chicago has a gun ban. And then you got the gangster-in-chief there, Rahm Emanuel, of Chicagoland, Gangsterville, running around saying, oh, we want the public to go online to the city website, he said 2 weeks ago, and tell us why you think things are so violent. Well, you've hung out signs saying criminals nationwide come to a big city, get free welfare, beat up whoever you want on the subways, all the famous videos that they post on the gangster-type sites, beating up old people, walking up to old men and sucker punching them and knocking them out. You get extra, media attention if the person happens to be white. But they also beat up black people, Hispanics, and predominantly it's young black males doing it. You've got this culture being force-fed and pushed by the media, by MTV, by all of it. And now it's spilling out into all racial groups. And it's despicable what's happened, and it's disgusting, and it's bad for every community in this country. And now we've got open calls, and this is linked in the article at Infowars.com. Will the election results cause massive riots to erupt all over America? And again, that's Michael Schneider of the EconomicCollapseBlog.com, I think is the address of that. But I'll give that to you after the break if you want to go to the site itself. Also have it linked there. Yes, blog.com, theeconomicCollapseBlog.com. But we have it up at Infowars.com with a bunch of examples linking to Twitter where it's being saying, if Romney wins, I'm starting a riot. Who's with me? Stuff like that with the links. And I've got Watson doing a big article with a bunch of other examples. Then we've got Thomas Sowell saying the same thing. And then we've got the ChicagoNow.com, riots to follow the election, and Examiner newspaper, Twitter explodes with threats of riots with all the links to it. That is just some of the reports we're going to be going over, and it looks like it may happen because Mitt Romney in a whole bunch of major polls has now pulled ahead of Obama, clearly. Yes, my friends, we are back, and thank you so much for joining us. Journalist Jon Rappoport will be joining us coming up in the second hour, and we'll open the phones up then as well to break down in the last week hundreds of articles, including 5 different ones I saw in the New York Times this week, saying drug all kids in school with Ritalin, Prozac, and other speed and psychotropic-type drugs. And, of course, Big Pharma wrote this. They were just going to say half the kids are now mentally ill, but people said, well, half of them aren't mentally ill because they got 20% on drugs right now. We'll just say you all need to be on drugs and statins. And, of course, sudden infant death syndrome, I've got studies here. They've done this for 20 years more, is mainly caused by vaccines. They do autopsies and find it out, and the federal government quietly pays people off. But I've got some news on that, how they shoot the babies up and then they die, and their heart rate goes up, their breathing goes up, and, well, they die. But vaccines are good because Big Pharma says so. So we're going to be breaking all of that down as well, in the serious situation in Syria, where they're now doing a no-fly zone over parts of it and over Turkey. They're grabbing and enforcing down Russian aircraft, passenger liners. U.S. troops are fighting under NATO against Russian troops in Syria, and our troops are fighting alongside al-Qaeda, that is the main jihadi force that our government's brought into the area. It is off the charts immoral. And it's in the newspaper. Al-Qaeda's helping. Just totally immoral, off the charts evil. We're going to be looking at all of that. I want to play a clip here from KABC with Larry Elder interviews Thomas Sowell, again, journalist, professor, you name it, who predicts that if Obama loses, just because people are dependent on welfare, they're going to perceive the fact that they are being cut off the gravy train. Folks, you know that I don't demonize the welfare people. I think they're pitiful. They've deindustrialized this country. They've tried to force people onto food stamps. The food stamp program has doubled from 20-something million to almost 50 million. It's like 49 million and change since Obama got in. He has the nerve to say that you didn't build your own small business. I mean, it's like having Fidel Castro as president. It's just incredible, the things we hear coming out of a U.S. president's mouth. I'm not predicting there will be racially motivated riots in this country, but I certainly hope there isn't. And I think we do have the atmosphere there where this could happen. I know of the police, like we saw in the L.A. riots a few decades ago, if they stand down, if there's any looting or if a car gets dumped over or something, then it will spread. If the police pull back like they do, politically correct reasons. And, of course, that may happen because the power structure wants to use this as a pretext to take liberties of the American people. But watching inner city folks burn down their own neighborhoods as a form of protest is very, very sad. A lot of people laugh at it. I don't think it's funny because I want everyone to be empowered. I want to get our country back. And its dependency, you know, when the inner city areas get burned out, the big government types love that because now there's no businesses and all those people have is welfare. And I watch MSNBC sometimes, and all it is race baiting and race card, and you're a racist if you don't like government health care, and you're a racist if you don't vote for Obama. And it is so despicable that in the name of fighting racism, that I think is just, you know, racism is just mindless and stupid and is used to control us. It's divide and conquer. I'm totally against racism, tribalism, all this garbage. But when people are politically correct and think they can be racist against you because, well, you're the bad guy, you're the white guy, it forces you into the debate. And that's what the globalists want. But if you look at the poverty pimp types, all of them, Slimeball, Chris Matthews, Mr. Maddow, Miss Maddow, Rachel Maddow, you look at those people, all they're doing is injecting racial division all day long and making everything racial. And so people then watch that and believe that, well, you know, I've got a get out of jail free card. I should go out and riot. I should go out and engage in these things. And look at who used to call for riots in New York City and who used to stir stuff up. Al Sharpton, well, he's now one of the biggest hosts on MSNBC. And it doesn't empower anybody. In fact, all it does is create more division and make groups of people be afraid of each other. And that's exactly what big government wants, to keep everybody in their ghettos, in their barrios, in their neighborhoods. The white people running to the suburbs, you know, gentrification, hiding out there. This is exactly what we see getting pushed. And folks, if you look at Twitter and Facebook and all over, we've got big reports coming out on this. We've already got some up at Infowars.com. But we've got a big one coming out tomorrow morning, maybe even tonight, by Paul Watson, because there's a lot of examples of this and a lot of people calling for it. And I think that, unfortunately, researcher and journalist Thomas Sowell may be right about this happening, especially if it gets encouraged. And remember, and here's the key, I cover this in my film, The Obama Deception, made 3.5 years ago. If Obama, when he was U.S. Senator, would tell his cousin over in Kenya, Odinga, when he lost the election against the Christian majority, Odinga is a Muslim, he said, have your Muslim constituents, the letter's public, riot and demand you be given a seat in government. And he did, and they made the prime ministership for Odinga. So don't think when Obama, and this came out in the news, sent Justice Department people down with the Trayvon Martin tragedy to try to stir up people and get some type of race war going. And they had some attacks going on and stores being looted. Remember that? Don't think they won't pull something like that now and play blacks and whites and others off against each other. That's pointless. Rioting will only, in fact, I saw some of the emails I got, I saw some of the comments on the YouTube video. They said, yeah, you better be afraid, you know, Jones, you know you're racist, you know, you're a white racist, all this type of stuff. Listen, I live 25 miles outside Austin, Texas. It sounds like World War III every weekend with my neighbors. I mean, next door to me, they're filming some Discovery Channel gun show every week. It sounds like World War III going on. Famous guy lives in you know, nearby who's got a show. The point is, I'm not afraid if people burn, you know, East Austin. Or I don't think that would ever happen here, but Chicago, Detroit, New York, Los Angeles, places like that. It's so mindless that when I'm saying in this video report that I've got up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, I'm in there saying, let's not, whoever gets elected, let's not have riots, let's not have violence. Both guys are puppets of the globalist. You know, this is stupid. We should come together for national sovereignty, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution. A lot of people are calling for this. A lot of opportunistic criminals that just want to rob shops. Don't be part of this if Romney wins and go out and riot. And they're like, oh, you're just afraid. It's so stupid. What, afraid you'll burn down your neighborhood in L.A. again? And everybody laughs at you? I mean, you know, because a bunch of criminals run around giving everybody in the neighborhood a bad name? It's just so stupid that this type of stuff is going on. And again, I'm very, very concerned. Are you concerned? I'm going to give the number out. I want to get your take on this. 877-789-ALEX on this issue. 877-789-ALEX. We'll be right back, and I'll play that clip of Thomas Sowell and a lot more. Stay with us. Okay, my friends, again, it is Sunday. We're very glad that you are here joining us on this 14th day of October 2012. And if Barack Obama, as U.S. Senator, told his cousin Odinga in letterhead, it's public, it's in my film, The Obama Deception, just look it up. Just look up Obama told his cousin Odinga to stage unrest in Kenya so that he'd be given a spot in the government. That letter's public on the senatorial letterhead. If he would do that, I don't know, that was about 7-8 years ago, what would he do now? I mean, they're not going to give up power easily. They shipped tens of thousands of guns and hand grenades into Mexico. This all came out, CBS News, to blame the Second Amendment. And the memo came out that they were going to blame the Second Amendment. And guess what they did? They still say we should restrict guns and not let you have semi-autos because of what happened in Mexico. They never give up. They never stop. They never back off. And the problem is the Republicans are bought and paid for by the same power structure, so they act like they're against all this, but they go along with all of it. And wait till I get to the economic news that we've got here. But again, if you just joined us, here are some of the headlines. Will the election results cause massive riots to erupt all over America? And the story at Infowars.com, links to a bunch of different people on their own sites and their own Twitters and Facebook accounts saying yes. And here is the Chicago Now newspaper reporting riots to follow the election. Here's an Examiner story by Bill Clark. Twitter explodes with threats of riots. And then it gives a bunch of quotes here from their Twitters, from their Facebooks, from their different sites, saying someone should shoot the Republican presidential candidate. They say his name here. I'm not even going to read these quotes. Tweeted bow tie. And it just goes on. I mean, and you've heard about the school teachers telling kids, your parents should have had an abortion because you're a Republican, and people getting beat up. I mean, it's all over the place. The absolute viciousness if people don't want to support Obama. And they say, well, you must be racist. And again, it's truly, truly disgusting to see this happening. And if there are any riots or attacks, if Mitt Romney wins, it is only going to hurt race relations in this country. It is only going to be used to bring in more of a police state in this nation. And I'm telling you, if the police stand down like they've done in Detroit and New York, remember the famous cases where they were letting men rape women in Central Park? The New York police, just shameful. Remember the LA riots? Remember all the other riots we've seen in Detroit, you name it, where the police stand down and then just let people burn things down. And I mean, this has happened hundreds of times in the last 50, 60 years in this country. Different events. I mean, you have riots when sports teams win. And the police go right out or lose and rubber bullet everybody and attack everybody and sometimes use too much force and kill innocent people. We saw that when the Red Sox won a few years ago. But then if it's an election riot, they'll just stand down. At least in the past they have. And if that happens, folks, then people will say, well, it's my green light, black, white, Hispanic, you name it, to go out in these poor areas and rob the local Walmarts, rob the Targets, rob the pawn shops, rob the homes, and then it's always minorities that end up getting burned up in their houses. And then they shoot at the fire department when they come. I mean, it is just crazy watching this historically and knowing that we've never in modern times been sitting on a bigger powder keg. And here's the news. Rasmussen polls, it's a bunch of other polls showing the same thing. Daily presidential tracking poll. The Rasmussen reports a daily presidential tracking poll for Sunday shows Mitt Romney attracting support from 49% of voters nationwide, while President Obama earns a vote of 47%. 2% prefer some other candidate, yeah, Libertarian, Gary Johnson. And another 2% are undecided, and they have the whole track there. But there's a whole bunch of polls, not just Rasmussen, but Mason-Dixon, Gallup. They've got Romney coming up and being a dead heat or pulling ahead of Obama. As Election Day nears, Romney crowds are surging. AP, Sydney, Ohio. Yeah, and Obama can't get 5,000 people in an event when used to he could get 50,000. They have to bust people in to do that. So again, I'm thinking Obama's going to lose right now unless he launches a bigger war against Iran or Syria as an October surprise, as ABC News said 2 weeks ago. By the way, a week before that, or days before that, our new magazine, the October issue came out, InfoWars magazine, and our headline is October Surprise War, and we say, could Obama, it's actually the publisher's letter with yours truly, I break it down and I say Obama may stage a war to get elected. And again, I'm nonpartisan. I just report the facts. I absolutely am disgusted with Obama. Everybody knows that. But I come at this not from a left-right perspective, but a right-wrong perspective. Look at this article. Shut up and play nice. How the Western world is limiting free speech. This is the Washington Post. Sounds like Alex Jones wrote this. This came out today by Jonathan Turley, the constitutional lawyer, who I want to get back on the show, by the way, guys. Please note that. He's a great interview. The point is, he goes through a laundry list of this. We're losing freedom no matter who's in office. And the last thing we need in this depressionary economy is major cities having riots. Now, I've made my points. Let's go ahead and go to a clip of Thomas Sowell on KABC radio a few days ago talking about racially motivated riots. Here it is.
Let me just understand what you're saying, Tom. You're telling me that you believe if Obama gets defeated, there's going to be race riots in the country, not because he was defeated, but because of the unraveling of the welfare state and the dependency of the welfare state of so many people who have a vested interest in keeping things the way they are?
Well, no, it's not quite that rational. I think that there are a lot of people out there who have every incentive to polarize the races, and they're being supported in innumerable government programs. I mean, from the Al Sharptons and Jesse Jackson right on down to the local street corner rabble-rouser. And I cannot believe that they will sit there quietly and see this man defeated if he is defeated, and not say that it was a fraud.
So you're saying that people are going to say that the election was stolen from Obama, the way Kerry is still saying that he lost the election because it was stolen from him in Ohio?
Yes.
Wow. And that it'll lead to race riots?
Yeah, it will, I think.
What if Obama gets defeated, Tom, but Republicans don't get control of the Senate?
Oh my God, it'll be just a total turmoil, because so much of what Obama did has to be undone.
All right, folks. Well, there you go. You know, I certainly hope that that is not the case. I certainly hope that this doesn't happen, but this could be the October surprise as well, or November surprise. I mean, what if there are riots? Even if Romney gets elected, Obama is still in office for the rest of November, December, and then to January 21st. So that's 2.5 months, roughly, or right at 2.5 months. And, or a little over 2 months to be technical. Who knows what they can do? I forgot the biggest point to all of this. We'll cover it more when we come back. All the articles we published with the Army manuals and the Army admissions and the Army Times saying they're getting ready for massive civil unrest and rioting in November, but never saying why. Oh, I forgot the biggest point of this. The government, the reason I'm so concerned and think this may happen, that it may be triggered, there may be provocateurs in there or something that do this, so these communities go up in flames. There's massive preparations for it at a level I've never seen. So we'll break more of that down straight ahead and take your calls, get your take on it. Stay with us. Okay, so we're talking about election 2012. I'm Alex Jones, your host. Thanks for tuning in on this Sunday. And we're looking at Barack Obama sliding behind or at a dead heat with Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney is pulling ahead. This is a horse race. Mitt Romney is starting to pull ahead. There's still 3 weeks to go before the election in early November. As you know, I don't like either candidate. They're both globalist. They're both dedicated to crony capitalism, the opposite of free market. Big mega banks sucking trillions of dollars a year of taxpayer money. Big pharma lobbying government to mandate all these vaccines. Doesn't mean it's the law, but they lie on the news and say it's the law to take a big raft of deadly shots. You've got all the regulations written to shut down the globalist competition. And with the Obamanoids and all the sheep-like followers that, Obama, they are going to call foul if Obama loses, and I think you will see some civil unrest. I don't know how bad it will get. I hope it's not going to be riots, but a lot of experts think it is. And if you just joined us, Paul Watson's got an article coming out tomorrow on this, recapping it. But there's been a plethora of Army Times, Defense Department press releases, training manuals for civil unrest, mass arrest. Obama's had the Army trained for re-education. Yeah, here's one. Army manual outlines plan to kill rioters, demonstrators in America. Warning shots will not be fired. And then we've got links to the Army PDF. And then they were just showing another one that just came out with the re-education camps. U.S. Army purchases riot gear as fears over civil unrest grows. That's from back in July. And then it's got DHS. You've got the 1.6 billion bullets. It was 1 billion, 1.2 billion, 1.4 billion. Since last November, in 1 year, they bought 1.4 billion this year, 200 million late last year. It's 1.6 billion, including Sniper, 308. And that's been big national news. What's going on here? And you notice you've got the economic meltdown. You've got all the proxy wars in Syria and Iran and Libya, and just it's all getting crazy. And the dollar dropping against the Chinese yuan. And all of this incredible economic news I'll get to in the second hour that's happening. And you've got the Cybersecurity Act that openly restricts internet freedom. All of this is happening. These are those times in history when so much happens. Let's go to Sean in New Hampshire. Sean, what's your take on this? Is it much ado about nothing? I mean, if people, there was a few little riots and fights and things in Florida over the Trayvon Martin situation with the media hyping it. What'll happen if Obama doesn't get elected? Yeah, go ahead. Hey, let's hang up on... Now, we're done, Sean. Thank you. Sorry, I just don't know you're there. Dennis in Texas, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, thank you for all you do. We're glad you're there. You're the voice in the wilderness. What's going to happen? These people want riots. They're provoking us at every turn. They want riots. They know how to deal with riots. Okay? They can beat your head in. That's what this whole thing's designed to do, provoke riots. Oh, and what's going to happen? Oh, if the people go out there and riot because, their entitlements, the stuff that they're stealing from me is going to be taken away from them, I'm not going to give it to them anymore, because there's going to be some reform in the entitlement system. Well, hey, I'm sorry. Now they're going to riot, and they're going to play right into their hands, and they'll declare martial law.
Absolutely. They will declare a civil emergency. Great point. I agree with you that it's definitely a danger. But by talking about it, we can force these big city police departments to stop rioting when it begins. But you've got to stop it right when it starts, or it will spread like wildfire.
Go right to the police department and confront them as human beings to human beings.
All right, thank you for the call there. Let's go to JT Coyote in Colorado. You're on the air. Go ahead.
You hit it right on the head with the November surprise idea. It will be provocateur, you can guarantee. You can rest assured.
Well, see, normally I'd say there was some danger, but why is government gearing up like it's the end of the world, 1.6 billion bullets, massive preparations? What's going on?
Exactly, and this is what they're gearing up for. I mean, this is like Nazi Germany. If the chancellor isn't reelected, the Mac Daddy that's going to pay the bills and buy me a car and a new house, you've got a situation where the October surprise has been pushed back to November, and that will stop the whole electoral process. These people...
Oh, yeah, what if it's a contested election again, like 2000? You can guarantee civil unrest if that happens. If they have some 3-week-long circus again, Katie, bar the door. Great points. Good to hear from you. Let's talk to Frank in Texas. Frank, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a little bit different take on this. I think Obama, I think you give him too much credit for being a real person. I think he's somewhat more of a monarch or, a cage baby. I don't think he's an actual real person. So why would the people in charge get him out of office if they have a complete puppet in and they control the election? Because
they want to give you a new puppet, and they want to... There's also fights within the power structure over the levers of who gets to be the executive. Because, yeah, Obama's a puppet. Romney would be a puppet as well. But that office has a lot of power for the puppeteer. So there's a real battle within the power structure always over who gets... the presidency. Sir, all I'm saying is that the banksters want dependency, so they always go into countries and create socialism at the grassroots to get a dependent group, so that the bankers have a dependent population who will always be for big government, ensuring the bankers get all their corporate welfare and corporate contracts and bailouts. So it's pressure from above and below squeezing the middle class. That's how they really team up. And all I know is the welfare types out there, black, white, doesn't matter, they associate Obama, with their own personal power and their well-being. And I'm seeing, again, the whole point, if you just joined us, all over Twitter, all over Facebook, they've got Chicago newspaper reporting on it. They've got the Examiner, Infowars.com's got a report on it with all the links where it's just flooding the web. And it may just be internet talk. It may be tough talk that, hey, I'm going to riot, I'm going to burn stuff, I'm going to kill people, if Romney wins. And people saying Romney should be killed. I'll guarantee you that if I got on air and said this person ought to be killed or that person ought to be killed, there'd be cops here within an hour. But whenever, for whatever reason, liberals, socialists, whatever, they can shoot their mouth off about violence all day long, and that's supposedly okay. So that's the issue here. And then you have the government massive preparation for civil unrest. What do you think the 1.6 billion bullets are for?
Well, they're probably to kill us. But what I don't understand is if the, elites, Rothschild and all them, if they have somebody who is a complete and total puppet from top to bottom, CIA parents, it reach to high heaven, the whole thing. Why would they get rid of him? If they have their ideal person in office, why would they get rid of him?
I hear you, but I don't know if you heard my point. I appreciate your call, sir. They need new puppets because old puppets wear out. Obama was in the news. They said he was the second coming of Christ. He was Christ-like. He was mythical. He had halos on his head in Time magazine. Remember all that? Just 3.5, 4 short years ago? And then he didn't deliver heaven on earth. He's there to take the blame, take the heat. And when he's not good anymore, when he loses his value, they'll put a new one in like Mitt Romney. Let me tell you, Mitt Romney gets in there, it's going to be business as usual. Mitt Romney supported carbon taxes. Mitt Romney supports the UN. Mitt Romney supports anti-gun, anti-semi-auto, open borders. He did right Obamacare. That's what happened. I saw their debate where they sat there and argued about who was giving people more goodies. So don't think that everything's going to be all right just because you elect Mitt Romney. Yes, obviously, in action, Obama's worse because that's the Democratic Party supports communism and anti-gun and anti-family and welfare and forced inoculations and getting God out of everything. Democrats, by and large, are really sick, twisted weirdos. They've got a lot of, moron supporters out there who aren't bad people, zombies, but a bunch of them are sick people. Obama. Second hour, more calls, and Jon Rappoport coming up. We're back live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. We're continuing with your calls, and we have investigative journalist Jon Rappoport coming up in the next segment. We'll continue with calls after that. We're talking about all these preparations for economic collapse. We're talking about massive chatter and buzz on the internet that we link to and document at Infowars.com with talk of racially motivated riots if Obama doesn't win. This is now pure identity politics we're talking about. Terry in Illinois, what's your take on this?
Thanks so much for taking my call. New listener, first-time caller. I'm right in the suburbs of Chicago, so this is very important to me, the subject in and of itself. I wanted to thank you because I think you've connected all the dots for me. And I don't have the same opinion as your former callers. I think we're dealing with a malignant narcissist.
Yeah, your phone's not too good, ma'am. You say you think we're dealing with a narcissist. You talking about Obama?
Yes. I'll take it off speaker. Yeah, I think he is a malignant narcissist, and I think he's got everybody fooled.
No, I hear you. I appreciate your call. Listen, we don't really screen calls, but, guys, if you can't hear their voice clearly, we can't have them on air. I'm sorry, ma'am. I just couldn't really make out much of what you were saying. Let's go ahead and talk to Jason in Pennsylvania. Jason, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, God bless you. This is Jason from Scranton that got taken away by the Obama Nazi SS. How you doing today?
You called, what was it, about a year ago or something? Like what was your story?
It was a few months ago.
What happened?
In August. I was the guy that started the radio show, And the day I started it, basically, one of my friends heard what I was saying about Obama.
Oh, that's right. They came and had the psychologist take you away with the police. And then there were a bunch of other reports confirm where if you're a radio host and talk bad about Obama, that's a mental illness, and they come and take you to jail and take your guns. No judge, no jury. Happened to Brandon Robb, the Marine, and others, and that's since been confirmed. We've played the newscast where they said you're not allowed to talk bad about him. You've heard the school teacher who didn't get in trouble. She told her students, you don't talk bad about the president or you will be arrested. My son, who's part of extracurricular activities, has been told by multiple children when they learn that he's my son that he should be arrested. And they go to the head sports people or folks at other events and call for his arrest. And then they have to announce, no, you're allowed to not be for Obama. And he's not for Mitt Romney either. And they say, you need to be arrested. I mean, these are sick people.
Yeah, well, they know, Alex, that he's going to refuse to worship their Messiah. And it's just incredible. You know, I really am getting sick of it. We know why this, Alex, we're Christians. We understand the root of all racism. So this race riot stuff, if it happens, we know the root of it. It's Satan. I mean, anybody that has the Spirit of God in them understands that all of this stuff is just division, and it's making us hate our fellow man. What did Jesus say? Do to the least to me. Do to the least to me. And
well, that's right. But again, and when we respond to the incredible race division, provocateur, rabble-rousing of MSNBC, NPR, and others, we're the bad guys. They live this stuff. This is the model they use where everybody's at each other's throats and the government is the referee over everyone. One
suggestion to you.
Sure, go ahead. We're about to go to break.
Okay, could you maybe do like one nightly news program of just like a prophecy show? Could you think about it maybe? You know, I don't really wade into all that. I just know that I try to love God and try to be a good person. And I don't wade into just all the different interpretations of stuff that's out there. I just try to get people to stand up against evil right now. I've found all the prophecy stuff has become an excuse for so many people to not fight evil because they think it's the end of the world. We'll be right back to get into the forced drugging of our children. They say they want to drug all the kids now. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, listening across the United States and worldwide, I am Alex Jones. It is the second hour of this Sunday radio broadcast. I'm here every Sunday, 4 to 6 Central Time. That's 5 to 7 Eastern. I am a documentary filmmaker. If you're a new listener, I am also a syndicated radio host. I've been on radio for 17 years, syndicated since 1998. So 14 years syndicated, and never went above 100 stations. It would go back and forth, ping-ponging between 60 and 100 stations. As stations sold and as stations changed formats, now we're well over 120 and rapidly growing. It'll be 160, 170 in a few months at the rate. We've got more than 50 stations in the process of signing on right now. So I need to start reintroducing some of the basics occasionally, the New World Order, the Private Federal Reserve, the globalist, eugenics, what their end games are. If you just tuned in on one of our great new affiliates out there, I'm just somebody looking for freedom. And I'm somebody looking for a level playing field, and I don't like tyrants. And I have stacks of news articles here today. We'll be going over some of them where they know, and they've known for decades, that sudden infant death syndrome is caused by vaccines. And they pay out through a federal multi-billion-dollar slush fund to keep people quiet. I know that the troops have seen a at least 5-fold increase in deformity in their children since the use of depleted uranium. And there's more articles out on that in mainstream news today. I'm very upset that that's going on. It's also come out that TEPCO admits it knew problems at Fukushima before the earthquake hit it, and covered up the real radiation levels, just like they've done in nuclear disasters here in the U.S. It's this culture we see out of the globalist time and time and time and time again of just drinking their own Kool-Aid, believing their own lies. And as a society, more and more insane things are being done and being gotten away with by government and the big mega corporations that control it. And I'm simply here trying to get people to become aware of what's happening. Now, last hour, we got deep into the 1.6 billion bullets bought in the last year by Homeland Security. The Army admitting they're preparing for civil unrest in late October, early November. How that ties into the worldwide meltdown accelerating, the dollar losing value, quantitative easing, turning up the printing presses, but only giving the money to the ultra-rich. Talk about class warfare. They've got people saying, raise taxes on the rich means $125,000 a year or more. That's not rich. Meanwhile, on top of all of that, we've got tens of trillions given to offshore banks who are above the law and pay no taxes. And I've got more news on that today in my economic stack. We're going to be getting to that as well. In fact, here it is. Social Security increases for 2013 could be lowest since 1975. Oh, but don't worry. They take your money, pay it into a big government fund, and then pay it as corporate welfare out the back door. This is AP. JP Morgan turns in record profit, higher revenue. Well, yeah, they're given hundreds of billions of dollars a year of tax money. Of course, they're turning in higher revenue, record profit, higher revenue. So there's that. Fed actions to reduce mortgage rates may be helping banks more than borrowers. Washington Post. Oh, really? Think so? This is a giant robbery happening, and you've got people happy to be slaves if they get a free Obama phone or if they get a little welfare, barely enough to live on. It's dependency. It's disgusting. It's sad. And now, Puppet Romney has pulled ahead in many polls of Puppet Obama, and so we hear the calls all over the web for rioting. And Thomas Sowell says he predicts it will happen if Obama loses. I want to get investigative journalist Jon Rappoport's take on that. Then we'll get to why he's really here today with us and more of your phone calls. Man Bear Pigs calling. I guess that must be Al Gore, because there was an announcement that the government even admits, okay, the Earth's been cooling for 16 years now. Julio, Ronnie, Scott Free, Wayne, Steve, others. We'll be getting to you coming up. The number to join us on air is 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. But after the break, we're getting into the reason Jon Rappoport's joining us. He wrote a story about this. Drugs to improve learning, the New York Times. And it says, attention deficit or not, pills to help in school. Now, New Freedom had said, that's that big pharma group 5 years ago, Presidential Commission, they want to put half of kids on psychotropics and speed drugs. There's one of them on them right there. Now they are saying that everybody just needs to be on them. And again, if I said there it is on screen, we're streaming video at prisonplanet.tv for radio listeners. And again, Jon Rappoport wrote an article about this that we ran at Infowars.com, breaking down the fact that it is just an incredible crime that's happening. Again, we'll cover that after the break. But John, what is your take, we only got a few minutes before break here, on the hype of riots and people saying they're going to riot if Obama doesn't win? Again, John is a graduate of Amherst College with a BA in philosophy and worked in freelance investigative reporting 30 years. He's published the website NoMoreFakeNews.com since 2001 and been a radio host as well. And he's written for major national newspapers and done investigative journalism work for national television. I won't get into his whole bio. But briefly, what's your take on October's surprise? Is it financial meltdown, wide war in Syria, Iran? What do you make of this big story that we're seeing all over the place that there may be riots?
Well, Alex, it's obvious that this is more, class warfare, race warfare being promoted. I mean, here's the idea. Let's stir up as much trouble as we possibly can. Let's predict that all kinds of dire things are going to happen, because then maybe they will. Because then we, in other words, the controllers, the globalists, have a chance to shut down society, declare martial law, go in there with all kinds of troops and bullets, as you've described, and weapons and sound weapons, and invade towns and cities and inner cities on the pretext that we've got these riots boiling over, and then we can say the whole country's melting down and we have to impose tighter controls, more controls, more controls, more controls. So they're trying to float a self-fulfilling prophecy and stir up people all at once because they keep publishing these insane comments by people out of nowhere. I mean, who cares who these people are, whether they're famous or they're unknown, who are saying, watch out, if Obama loses, riots are going to break out, we're not going to take this kind of stuff. I mean, you know, anybody can say this kind of thing, but they make a big deal out of it, so that they can then say, well, look, we said it's going to happen, and here it is. They want to provoke this into happening is what they want to do. And then they want to clamp down on the population and say, we have to protect you, we have to keep you safe, and therefore don't go out at night. We have all kinds of new rules and regulations and new surveillance. It's like a mini 9/11. You know, it's like saying, okay, this was an attack on America, these riots, and so I know you folks all want security, and we're here to deliver it. We've got new stuff you never even heard of before. We can spy on everybody all the time and predict what they're going to do, and in that way, everybody's going to be just fine. Everybody's going to be safe. So just take it in the neck as we're going to give it to you, and you'll be safe and protected. That's what they're doing, and they keep on doing it for different reasons, and this whole thing about race riots is just the latest reason they're giving.
Well, I agree with you, but at the same time, we did see the White House try to go in with the Justice Department and hype stuff up with the Trayvon Martin case, where Trayvon Martin, it did later come out. I mean, they showed his head all bleeding. He beat him up. That's what the witnesses saw, including his black neighbor, said no, the kid was on top of him beating him up. They showed a photo that was 7 years old. That's why I call him a kid. He was actually a huge man. His dad was a gigantic guy. And it's sad what happened to Trayvon Martin, but they really want to get this going. And the question is why? We'll be right back to break down the drugging of your children. Okay, if you're just joining us, I'm your host, Alex Jones. We've got investigative journalist Jon Rappoport on the line with us via video Skype. You can watch at prisonplanet.tv or InfoWarsNews.com if you're a radio listener and want to check out the video feed. If you go back to 2006, the Associated Press, WorldNet Daily, others reported it, we covered it. One of the board members of the National Presidential Commission had a pang of conscience and went public. You can pull up these articles. And said this was written by Big Pharma. It's called the New Freedom Initiative, very Orwellian name, like the Patriot Act. And it seeks to get half of the kids in America on psychotropic drugs with guidelines written by Big Pharma to have the school nurse, the school counselor pushing on them. Now, Ron Paul sponsored a bill. They shot most of it down in 2006. Now, 7 years ago. If you expand on that, they're back. And there's a big PR push that, oh, everybody's going to get free screening. Isn't it great? It's kind of like getting a call. Hey, you get a free duffel bag if you come to this timeshare meeting. And it's a 14-hour sales pitch. Or it's like being put on the rack and being tortured. Well, this is much worse. This is, hey, everybody gets free psychological screening of young children. From pre-K right up to college, you're going to get a psychological screening with guidelines. And the guidelines, we read these on air earlier in the week, it says, don't trust authorities, have anxiety, have trouble sleeping, sometimes get angry. Well, you need to be on drugs. That's it. And John has an article. It's up at Infowars.com. Bombshell, mind control engineers now drugging children for social justice. That's a quote. And we have the head of the Texas Psychiatry Board. At least he was the head of it at the time, 5-6 years ago in my film Endgame. He was asked by Representative Susanna Hupp of the Texas legislature, why are 69% of Texas foster kids, and that, by the way, that happens to be the national average too, on up to 7 psychotropics, or that's the average, 69% are on 7. And he said, well, they come from bad gene pools. She goes, do you do gene tests? No, they just have bad gene pools. So it's really eugenics. And now they're saying, I mean, here it is in the New York Times, all over the place, oh, it's not just for problem kids or kids with bad grades. Everybody needs to be drugged now. So they're not just saying 50%. They're saying Ritalin, Prozac's good for you. John, break down this bombshell information.
Unbelievable, Alex. I thought I'd heard everything. We got these doctors who are now saying, well, here's the thing. If you're raised in a poor family in the inner city, then there's no way you're going to get a level playing field, especially in school, with kids from families that have more money. So on behalf of, get this, quote, social justice, we have to put all these kids on Ritalin, Adderall, which are speed drugs that are prescribed for ADHD. We don't care what they have, what the diagnosis is or isn't. We just have to get these kids on these drugs so that they can perform better in school. And so that's what we're doing.
And forget that Adderall and all these drugs have been proven to shrink the brain, swell the heart, all sorts of growth stunting, burning them out. The New York Times says, look at this great kid. And he's got huge black circles around his eyes, looks like a zombie. It's like, your kid needs this too. So now you're racist if you don't want to put all the inner city kids on speed.
Exactly. And this kid actually was eventually put into a psychiatric institution because he was reacting so badly to Adderall. And then eventually they put him on an even more powerful drug, Risperdal, which can just directly cause brain damage, I mean, in lots and lots of people. So what they're doing here is, now here's where the craziest part is. You see, they're calling this social justice. Well, you add in to this volatile mix in inner cities. You've already got violence. You've got extreme poverty, no jobs, high crime rate, terrible schools, and all the rest of it. Now you're going to light a match and you're going to pour it on that flame because these drugs, like Adderall and Ritalin and so forth, because they are speed, they increase violent behavior. So now you're going to add that final piece to it. Right? And now guess what happens when you back up and you've got thousands of kids who are in that environment on these drugs? You're going to get a tremendous upsurge in violent crime. That's what you're going to get. And this is what some people will remember. Gary Webb, famous journalist who's been dead now for a number of years, wrote a series in the San Jose Mercury called Dark Alliance, in which he showed that in South Central Los Angeles, poverty-stricken community, the CIA was permitting and assisting crack cocaine to come into South LA and to destroy that community because the money that was coming from that was funding the so-called war on Nicaragua that the United States was covertly.
Sounds like Fast and Furious. I've seen studies out there, people can pull these up, that if you've been on Ritalin or these other speed drugs, that you are up to 5 times more likely to become addicted and seek out illegal drugs. So before the drug pushers went, hey, kid, come here on the playground. Now they go, oh, we're liberal. Here, little 5-year-old black kid, take this, when they know it causes all sorts of problems. And they're just saying, we're going to target you, period. Because I saw some articles this week saying, put all the black and Hispanic kids on this and poor white kids. And now they're saying, oh, put all the kids on it because the drugs help everyone, period. I mean, this is, how much more out of control does Big Pharma have to get? I mean, they're total drug pushers, period.
Total drug pushers. And as I cite in my article on this, the most authoritative study on these drugs shows that over the long term, they don't improve school performance. They don't improve learning. So this whole social justice nonsense rap that they're delivering, oh, level playing field, better school performance, that's a total lie too, because the drugs don't deliver that. Absolutely not. So the whole thing is insane. I overheard a doctor some years ago, I mean, he was a well-known doctor who was saying at a party, he was standing there talking to people, and he said, what we have to do is put Ritalin in the water supply. That's what these people want to do. They want to just say, these are good drugs. Everybody should be on them. So let's forget prescribing them. Let's just sell it.
And by the way, you're not just saying that. That's what's frustrating about this. I know we have listeners tuning in are like, oh, yeah, right. I've got Fox News, CNN, you name it. We need Ritalin in the water. We need Prozac in the water. We need statins in the water. Japan's looking at putting lithium in the water, an antipsychotic that brain damages you. And it's so over the top. And, oh, unbelievable, unbelievable. Look at this. This is from WebMD. ADHD and substance abuse, alcohol and drugs connected. And then it goes on to say that, yeah, it's a gateway drug. No kidding, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I've known people on Ritalin and these other drugs. They're total out of control. They just fry these kids' brains. It's true. It makes them sit down and shut up later. And I love how they pump these kids full of Diet Coke and sugar and all this stuff. They have horrible GMO diets. They're bouncing off the walls. They're watching television all day that wires the brain bad. That's major studies. And then you wonder why the kid's out of control. And they take discipline out of the home and the school, so the kids are out of control. And don't worry, the government comes in and says, we're going to kick your kid out of school if you don't put them on Prozac and Ritalin. And when they grab your 2-year-old, the CPS, and they cry, they put them on a bunch of drugs that turn them into zombies as well, till all their teeth fall out. We'll be right back. Stay with us. All right, we're going to some of your phone calls here in a few minutes. They'll be all over the map, but Jon Rappoport, investigative journalist, can cover it. His website's nomorefakenews.com. I'm Alex Jones. My websites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Don't forget, coming up later in this week, I'm going to do a 48-hour transmission, and I'll be live. I don't know, Chris, how many hours am I live? Something like 15, 20 hours of it. I'll be hosting over the 2 days. At least 20. Wow. And we're going to have a lot of other guest hosts, special guests, and a huge raft of guests. And it is fundraising to get our satellite uplinks and some final equipment to expand my nightly TV show. And we're not like government that comes and forcefully takes things at gunpoint and then gives it to their own media systems to propagandize. When you buy the books, the videos, the water filters, all of it at InfoWarsStore.com, it funds us. When you support our sponsors, it funds us. When you sponsor our local AM and FM stations, it funds us. But we also, this will be the 5th annual Money Bomb, and we've raised up to $500,000 before. That sounds like a lot. It's really not when you're talking about equipment and crew and things. But it is an important part of our funding system. So we'll be having that Money Bomb, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. You can start donating now if you'd like to ahead of the 48 hours, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. You can also get at cost the new glossy magazine, InfoWars Magazine at InfoWarsStore.com. We decided to print it in glossy now, not in newsprint. You can get a subscription with shipping included. So it'll be 12 issues plus an extra issue, 13 issues for $59.95. Delivered to your door. That counts the shipping. Shipping's more than half our cost. Or you can buy them in bulk in groups of 10 or up to 100. 10 copies for $14.95. They're basically like a big color book covering the globalist activities. Great way to wake people up. Everybody's getting out of print. Well, we dominate the web. We're getting back into print. Again, InfoWarsStore.com to find all of that. Okay, going back to Jon Rappoport. John, when I read this New York Times article about some kids taken because they're throwing fits, instead of being disciplined or being fed right, they're put in psychiatric facilities now for throwing fits. They're arresting kids who throw fits. And then you read about Skinner and all these guys. They said, don't let parents spank their kids. They'll act like animals. Then there'll be a societal crisis. We'll take over. And they describe when Dr. Michael Anderson hears about low-income parents struggling in elementary schools, he usually gives them a taste of some powerful medicine, Adderall. The pills boost focus and impulse control in children with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. But it goes on to say, now we just want to give them to everybody. I mean, how far will we let Big Pharma go? I mean, talk about the scandals that just came out in the last month, where all these big pharma companies got caught selling drugs they knew were killing people and didn't protect them. And putting vaccines out they knew were giving people what they claimed to treat. I mean, how does Bill Gates' foundation give hundreds of thousands of kids in India a polio vaccine that ends up paralyzing tens of thousands of them? It's in the news, but it's like no big deal. I mean, it's just we've gotten so accustomed to this medical tyranny. Jon Rappoport.
It's so incredible, Alex. Let's take that Bill Gates polio vaccine in India. 47,000 cases of paralysis from the vaccine. 47,000 cases. Now, you would think that in any half-sane society, you got a celebrity, billionaire, Bill Gates, you got his big program to vaccinate the world, you got 47,000 cases of paralysis in India as a result of the vaccine. I mean, I've been in media for the last 30 years. Is that a big story or what? I mean, how about a headline in the New York Times? How about the CBS Evening News leads with that and says, wow, look at this. And we're trying to get Bill Gates on here, but so far, it's difficult, you know? I mean, you got a story everybody in the world is going to be glued to.
Did you know Bill Gates funds CNN, ABC News, CBS, NBC, the London Guardian, and hundreds of other publications? They spend close to $1 billion a year paying media, and when you think a health story is sometimes they'll have buried at the bottom that it's, oh, part of this foundation, and then that foundation's funded by them. Did you know that, John?
Yes, and that's why these media outlets won't cover it that way, you see, because, I mean, just from the point of view of a reporter and an editor, you're always looking for a gigantic story to sell newspapers. But if you're already sold out to Bill Gates, who's funding you, then you say, well, we can't run that.
People ask why the dinosaur media is dying. It's because they can't help it. It's not media. Look, they've got the guy that made Super Size Me, Spurlock, coming out with a film breaking for the first time that a lot of news has been paid for. Folks, for 30 years, but in the last 5 or 6 completely, every TV show, I know people in Hollywood, is mainly funded not by the advertisers, but by government tax money to have anti-gun, anti-family garbage in it, pro-Obamacare garbage. I mean, people don't understand. It's propaganda by the very definition.
Absolutely. And if anybody in the major media wanted to take a look at this whole business about drugging kids for social justice, it would take them about 10 minutes to realize that this is really a covert operation. And the purpose of it is really, at the top, to increase violence in inner cities. That's what it is. Because you're giving drugs to kids indiscriminately that create violent behavior.
And then the answer will be more drugs.
And the answer will be more drugs and more suppression of violence by the cops. You know, and riots and all of the above.
They've got it all figured out. Unbelievable. But again, that's only one angle you're talking about in the rollout of the New Freedom Initiative. I'm sure you saw the articles. They were everywhere this week. Just saying everybody's got to have a flu shot or you're going to give your neighbor the flu, and everybody's got to start taking Ritalin and Prozac because it boosts your IQ. I mean, they're actually, it's like idiocracy or something.
Yeah, completely. I wrote a story, I don't know, 5, 6 days ago about a very well-respected research group called the Cochrane Collaboration. They went back and they looked at every single flu vaccine study they could find historically. They put it through the meat grinder to pick the very best studies, and they came up with the conclusion that for healthy adults, no flu vaccine whatsoever of any type stops the flu from happening. And neither does it stop the transmission of flu viruses between people. I mean, this is an incredible revelation. The flu vaccine is totally useless. That's what this extremely scientific group discovered. And here you've got the government hammering away and the doctors hammering away and people in pharmacies, you've got to get the flu shot, you've got to get the flu shot. Otherwise, you're a traitor and un-American. It's all baloney. It's complete, absolute hogwash. They're just pushing this down everybody's throat because it debilitates people. That's what it really does, Alex. The drugs and the vaccines make people weaker. They make them more out of control. They make them less able to think or function. They make them easier to control in the long run. And, of course, they make trillions for the pharmaceutical companies. And the government and those drug companies are in this whole operation hand in glove and have been for a very, very long time.
They're literally zombified. I showed this last week. I'm going to show it when we come back from break and then take a few calls with Jon Rappoport here on the Sunday News Show. Again, if you're just tuning in, I'm Alex Jones, your host. Look, I showed a whole bunch of newspaper articles last Sunday, all saying, get your shot or you'll make your neighbor sick. It's your responsibility. Parade Magazine, Texas newspapers, you name it. And they had quotes like, don't listen to wild rumors. There's never been any side effect from a flu shot. So I printed off and showed TV viewers, but radio listeners, told them where to go, gave the URL to the CDC saying death, paralysis, narcolepsy, permanent seizures, which is epilepsy, autoimmune shutdown, cancer. It's 20 pages saying it'll kill you, vaccines. It says it on the stinking inserts, and here are articles going, don't listen to conspiracy theorists. There's never been one problem, John. Not one, John.
That's why they've got this whole slush fund, as you said, to pay off people privately, secretly, quietly, whose kids have been brain damaged and destroyed by vaccines. That's why they can't sue the government, because the government and pharmaceutical companies made a deal about 15, 20 years ago that no longer would a private citizen be able to say to a big drug company, you destroyed my child's life with that vaccine.
Yeah, it was 1986. Yeah, absolutely. And they use our tax money to pay it off and then gag the families and then say we're conspiracy theorists. All right, last Sunday, I mentioned this on the radio because I know people listening all over the U.S., but all over the world, are bombarded with the same propaganda. It's the same globalist think tank, same lies. And you'll just see newspaper articles every flu season lying and saying 36,000 die when the real numbers are about 1,000 to 1,100. All of them infirm or having medical problems. You'll see before school every year saying it's the law to take your shots. There is no law. They're trying to pass laws. I mean, it's just mass hoaxing. But if you're watching on prisonplanet.tv where we stream video, here is an article out of the Longview News Journal here in Texas. And it says, take your medicine. Getting a flu shot is part of being a good neighbor. And it's the same story that I've heard. The medical shows that you're going to give your neighbor the flu if you don't take it. I thought if they had the shot, they were protected. See, everybody I know that gets the flu gets it from the shot, which they now admit in the studies. But continuing, listen to this. It says, there is absolutely no harm from getting a vaccination. Don't let yourself be fooled by wild rumors. They give no facts, no hyperlinks, and it's the same literally in hundreds of articles. There is no side effects. Zero, 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 zero. We're going back to Jon Rappoport here in a moment, but here's the CDC.gov. Okay, and just go there and type in vaccines, immunizations, possible side effects from vaccines. And it listed all here, and this is just a boil down that is 20 pages. It's thousands of pages if you click on each one. But let me just give you mild problems, headaches, upper respiratory tract infection. That's about 1 in 3 gets that. Stuffy nose, sore throat, joint pain, 1 in 6. Abdominal pain, 1 in 7. Diarrhea, gee, I wonder what else is happening. About 1 in 10. Fever, about 1 in 100. Oh, gives you fever. Blood and urine in the stool, pneumonia, inflammation of stomach, intestines. Oh, yeah, all the new increases in stomach disorders and Crohn's directly linked to vaccines. Oh, I'm on page 1. You want me to continue here? Here, let me just go through here some of these for you. I mean, it's got death in here, you name it. Long-term seizures, coma, lowered consciousness. Oh, you mean brain damage? US IQs, by the way, are down. Permanent brain damage. Seizures, nonstop crying, that's moderate problems. High fever, 105 degrees. That's from the DTaP vaccine. We take the tetanus shot. I mean, just death, blood, autoimmune disorder. But John, we're conspiracy theorists. We're liars. We're rumor mongers. We're scum. Because the Longview Journal, along with Parade Magazine and everybody else, they told me there was never a problem, John. Do you want to apologize on air for being a piece of trash, John, like me?
We're both going to bow down and apologize. Yeah, that's going to happen when the world ends. So here's the deal. That study that I mentioned in the last segment there, that proved, in fact, that the flu vaccine doesn't stop the transmission of flu viruses between anybody. So when they say, oh, your kid has to get his vaccine, otherwise he might give my kid the virus, well, there's 2 arguments. You cited one of them. If your kid is already protected by the vaccine, what are you worrying about? And the second is, oh, now we understand that the vaccine doesn't prevent the transmission of viruses anyway. They just go all over the place. So this whole nonsense about herd immunity is just a bunch of baloney that somebody cooked up in the PR department at the Centers for Disease Control. It's all a gigantic hoax. And it's destructive because, as you heard Alex reading the adverse effects here, they don't stop. When you have some high thing called high-pitched screaming and high fever, you're talking about brain damage. That's what that is. And kids get that all the time from the DHED.
Oh, I can't tell you how many people I know who went in for their four-month-old to get more shots, and the kid dies on the way home, and the police try to arrest him, saying, you must have beaten them because there's blood on their brain, when they know in the adverse reactions it causes an autoimmune problem in the brain and a ballooning. I mean, they know it. They don't just kill your kid. They try to throw you in jail after they murder them or brain damage them, because the stinking death camp hospital, it's got to be let off the hook.
Exactly. Or if the kid doesn't die, then they put you through a lifetime of misery as you try to extract from the government, who's guaranteed the vaccine and told you to get it, enough money to give your brain-damaged child some sort of support for the rest of his or her life. They put you through the mill.
Oh, they wouldn't do that, even though they took 4,000 plus foster kids and radiated them to death, even though they sprayed St. Louis with nerve gas, even though the London Independent's reporting on massive increases in birth defects in Iraq and in our troops today. The government loves us and wouldn't do anything. I mean, they care. We should take extra shots. I don't want to be a bad conspiracy theorist now. Let's just take some calls here. Let's go to Man Bear Pig in Pennsylvania. Or I guess Al Gore called in. Al Gore, there's a new big study. Daily Mail reports the Earth's been cooling for 16 years. Should I pay you tax money to save the Earth, Man Bear Pig?
You should take your shots, Alex, like you're supposed to, you and John.
No, Al. Are you living inside the lockbox yourself now?
Hey, great show, guys, and you're touching on the most important thing with Obamacare coming up. I mean, what's going to happen? Are we all going to have to? Are we going to be mandated to take our shots?
Well, the IRS enforces it. What's wrong with that?
You bet. That's exactly what's up the road.
You're not a racist, are you, Man Bear Pig? You're a racist if you don't want government running your health care.
And I don't want to vote for Romney or for Obama.
Oh, racist.
It's scary.
Double racist.
Thank you for all you do, Alex, and everything you throw out there. During your money bomb, how about you get your dad on for a little bit? You guys are so great together. That one time you had him on there.
No, that's a good idea. Drag my pop in here. Hey, my wife's been wanting to go on air, but she's never wanted to do it. Maybe we'll get her in here. Thank you for the call, buddy. Let's jam in another here. Let's talk to Scott Free. That sounds terrorist. In Colorado. You better support... I'm sorry, terrorist. Go ahead.
You better believe I'm an extremist, Alex. And to touch on the topic that you were talking about before with the Obamunists and how they're going to cause these riots. Oh my gosh! I was at the Mitt Romney and Obama debate out here, and I was saying Obama out of the bullhorn I have. I was knocking doors for my business, and the guy said no. He runs down the street and he's like, "You're Obama guy. I recognize you." But a suggestion for the show, Alex. When you start off in the morning, you should have one of your co-hosts do a news blitz so he gets through everything, and then you can come out and pontificate as you do so well.
No, I need to shut up and actually cover more of the news. Good point. Let's go ahead and talk to Wayne in Arkansas. You're on the air with other evil extremists that actually read the vaccine insert where it says it can kill us and then get freaked out when the news says it can't hurt us. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, extremists. You're on the air, Wayne. I guess Wayne doesn't like being called an extremist?
No.
Okay, bye-bye, Wayne. Bert in Texas, you're on the air. Bert.
Good afternoon, Alex.
Hey, buddy, how's it going today?
It's going great. Kudos from Judge Tom Heads County out here in Lubbock.
Welcome, sir. What's on your mind? We got about 2 minutes left.
Well, I just want to let you know I woke up in January of this year, but I didn't hear the alarm when you woke me up. Back when I listened in January.
Well, I'm glad that you. How do you define waking up? I mean, you realize all is not well in the state of Denmark.
Well, I was aware that things were not right, but it's kind of like some people wake up in the morning, they hear the alarm, they wake up immediately. Other people are not morning people.
No, I hear you. Look. They're telling you in the news there's no side effects, and it's the law to take vaccines. There's not a law, and there are a ton of deadly side effects. And it's a fraud. They've never guessed the right flu for that year. And it reduces your IQ, and it makes you get the flu the next year. These are all mainline studies. And it's so frustrating to be informed and know the globalists are counting on us not being informed. I appreciate you joining us. We're out of time. Sorry to Christine and so many others that are holding. Great job to our fabulous crew in here. In the last minute we've got here, any other points you'd like to make, Jon Rappoport?
Just one point, Alex. We've got to maintain the freedom to say no to medications or vaccines of any kind. That's the bottom line here. Whatever people know, whatever they don't know, however well they're informed or badly informed, at all costs, we've got to maintain the freedom to say, no, I don't want that. I don't want that for my kid. I don't want that for me. Other people want it. That's up to them. But freedom, as always, is the ultimate protection here, and that's what we're talking about.
And as you know, they've gone from hoaxing, saying it's the law to take vaccines, to going, okay, we need a law, and they're really trying to get laws in and trying to make first responders and people take shots. Folks, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. John, I want to put you on hold here at the end of the show because I want to set you up for sometime during the 48-hour broadcast this coming up Thursday and Friday. Everybody can listen to it at Infowars.com. But great job, my friend. Thanks for joining us. And thank you to the listeners. Thank you. And thank you to the crew. I'll see you back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central, Lord willing, Infowars.com.